So let's go ahead and begin in Deuteronomy 5. I'm not going to read all of the verses, but I'll give you a summary that after Moses finished giving these laws to the second generation of Israelites, he reminded them that they were first given to their fathers, not by him, but by God himself. God himself spoke these laws to their fathers from the top of Mount Sinai, from the glory cloud. You know, God's glory shines. And so it looked as if the mountain was on fire and God was speaking through the fire in a thunderous, loud, authoritative voice. And when God finished giving these commands to the Israelites, they realized his awesome power. And they also realized how insignificant they were. They felt like I did whenever I got finished reading 10 chapters of this woman's instructions to me as a wife. They were like, we're unworthy. We are completely messing this whole thing up. We're not good people, and we do not deserve to be in the presence of God. As a matter of fact, if we stay in his holy presence for very long, the fire might come down from this mountain and just consume us altogether. And so they were afraid of God. They realized how powerful he was and how little power that they had and how insignificant they were and how significant he was. And they went to Moses and they said, hey, we'll do whatever God says, but we don't want to hear his voice anymore. He's scary. And so we need you to go on the mountain, talk to him by yourself, and then just come back down and tell us what he says, and we'll do whatever he says. So I want to read you what God said to Moses after he heard the people. This is Deuteronomy 5:28. God says, I've heard the words of this people, which they've spoken to you. They are right in all that they've spoken. But oh, that they would have such a heart as this always, to fear me and keep my commandments, that it might go well with them and their descendants forever. And so Moses is telling them how their fathers felt at the time that God gave them the 10 commandments, and saying, God wished that your fathers would have this heart in them always, that your fathers would never, ever forget how they felt that day when they heard God's booming, authoritative voice giving these 10 commandments from a fiery cloud. Because if they remembered that feeling forever, then they would obey him forever. But that didn't happen with their fathers. As a matter of fact, their fathers started to go to the land and they got scared. They didn't trust God, and they weren't relying on his word to them. They had forgotten to be more afraid of him than they were of the giants that were living in this land. And so Moses is telling his children before they go into the land, hey, get in your mind, you didn't have God coming from this mountain telling you these commandments. I'm reciting them to you, but that's because your fathers couldn't handle it. But I need you to know what it was like that day, and I want you to fear him. I want you to feel that feeling and then never ever lose it, because if you feel fear towards him and you know of his awesome power and his significance over you, then you will obey him. And if you do that, then everything's going to be great in this new land that you go to. God's going to bless you, and you're going to get to live there for a long, long time. Then he went on. This is Deuteronomy 5:32. You shall be careful, therefore, to do as the Lord your God has commanded you. You shall not turn aside to the right or to the left. In verse 33, and he says, so you shall walk in all the ways that the Lord your God has commanded you, that you may live, and that it may go well with you, and that you may live in the land that you possess for a long time. And then beginning in chapter 6. Now this is the commandment, the statutes, and the rules that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you, that you may do them in the land that you're going over to possess, that you may fear the Lord your God, you and your son and your son's son, by keeping all his statutes and his commandments that I command you all the days of your life, so that your days may be long. Hear therefore, O Israel, and be careful to do them, that it may go well with you, that you might multiply greatly, as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has promised to you, in the land flowing with milk and honey. And so Moses is telling them, you're going to have to be diligent to follow these laws. But if you will stay on the straight path that God has for you and not turn to the right or to the left, then you will be blessed in this new land. Listen to what it says in Ecclesiastes 12, 13, and 14. This is the end of the matter. All has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether evil or good. This is the whole duty of man, to fear God and obey him.